Today we're going to talk about something that I've never really seen before in terms of draft rumors. We're going to discuss that and Hall of Fame conversation for a former Ram. We'll discuss all that and much more on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, press that subscribe button now, as these numbers may have changed, but roughly 73.2% of you guys are watching the videos, but you're still not subscribed to the channel. Do me a favor, press that subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. First things first, I do want to talk about this interesting conversation here. A very unique thing that I don't think we've ever seen before. I've never really seen it before in terms of the draft conversations. This is a quarterback coming in 2026. Again, a very unique situation that we're talking about. Now, what are we actually talking about here? As you guys can tell by the thumbnail, the Rams general manager, Les Snead, has been caught, I don't know if you want to call him caught, but has been seen chatting with quarterback Arch Manning at Texas's Pro Day. Now, here's what's very unique and something that I feel like I've never really seen before. Now, look, general managers talk to athletes all the time at Pro Days, but to be discussing or being seen having a conversation as a general manager, talking with a future prospect that is very, very hyped up in terms of next year's draft class. Very, very unique kind of situation the Rams find themselves in. Now, look, there's a lot to get into here about the reality or the potential reality there really is about the Rams drafting Arch Manning next year. We'll talk about why that could be an issue, why it could be something that doesn't really seem feasible for the Rams. But ultimately just kind of very unique, right? So we'll pull up the actual image here so you guys can see what we're talking about. See that we're not just talking about nothing here. This is the Rams general manager, Les Snead, seen talking with Arch Manning at Texas Pro Day. Now, of course, when we're talking about Texas, why would Les Snead be there? Well, a couple options, right? The receiver, Matthew Golden, is coming out of Texas, right? Got some hype as well because of his 40-yard dash, I believe being somewhere around the 4.2s, 4.3s kind of range. Maybe off, but regardless, Matthew Golden, very fast receiver out of Texas. Kind of a lot of hype around him as a prospect. A lot of actual connection with the Rams and Matthew Golden in this year's draft at pick number 26. So maybe the Rams draft a third receiver there. Don't know. Again, you already paid Tutu Atwell. You already paid Devontae Adams as well to join the team. You have Jordan Whittington as well. So maybe the Rams don't need a receiver, but something they want to look at the first round, as well as the quarterback, Quinn Ewers, who obviously started over Arch Manning, kind of had this weird quarterback battle going on in Texas the last couple of seasons. So overall, very kind of interesting to see this whole situation pan out. Are the Rams there to look at Quinn Ewers, possibly drafting Quinn Ewers in the 90th pick of the draft or the third round in general with the 101st pick in the draft? Or are they actually there to speak with Arch Manning, kind of get a feel for where he's at and where he may be? I don't know. Kind of very, again, unique situation here. It is worth noting, okay, we're going to break this down here, that Snead has ties to the Texas program. His son is kind of very important, right? His son, Tate Haver, plays for Texas, which could explain why Snead was in Austin in the first place. Sean McVay is also fairly close to Texas coach Steve Sarkisian, so there are some dots connecting to the Rams and connecting the Rams to the Longhorns, but ultimately not really connecting them to any specific player in particular that's at this pro day. But at the same time, you're a general manager for Los Angeles Rams. You're telling me you're going to the Texas Pro Day and just like, oh, my son plays for the team, that's why I'm here. Don't really think that's a real kind of storyline to kind of go with. And you're also going to say that he's standing there talking to Arch Manning, and he's not thinking about Arch Manning as a potential prospect for the Rams next year. I'm not buying it. Obviously, Les Snead knows what he's doing. He's not trying to spark up any interest here or spark up any weird conversations. I think he is genuinely going to talk with Arch Manning and say, hey, let me get a feel for this kid now. Let this kid also know, hey, we kind of like you. We're keeping an eye on you already. We're kind of ready to look into you next season. Go into next season healthy, strong, have a good season. We'll consider drafting you with our pick next year. Potentially, hey, Matthew Stafford may retire. Just something we're thinking about bringing you to Los Angeles, right? I mean, I don't know how much you can say as a general manager if it goes that far in terms of conversations, but I'm just simply saying that you're telling me Les Snead isn't trying to build a relationship here. I think it's definitely a subtle way to kind of build that bridge between the Rams and Arch Manning. As exciting as it would be for the Rams to land Manning, they probably won't be bad enough to be within striking distance of the number one pick next year, assuming Manning, A, declares for the draft, and B, has a season that sustains his high draft position. Of course, right? Assuming that he's going to continue to play well, he's going to show that he's proven to be the best quarterback in the draft class, assuming that he's going to declare for the draft next year where he's eligible, in his first year that he is eligible. Will the Rams have enough, firepower to trade up for the first pick in the draft, right? Everyone's probably thinking about Arch Manning at this point. The Manning family in general is such a long history going back to the original Archie Manning, right, in New Orleans, playing quarterback for them for years. A lot of history with the Manning family. I don't think you're going to want to miss out an opportunity to draft a guy like Arch Manning for any team that needs a quarterback, right? He could be the next future, great Manning like we've had in the NFL for decades. But ultimately, will the Rams be able to trade up for the number one pick? I don't know. Will they be bad enough to get the number one pick? Probably not. And so that's kind of where it sits. If Arch Manning declares for the draft, he's the number one overall pick in the draft. He may be out of the range for the Rams to even potentially get him. But we'll wait and see. Also, Eli Manning, just to note, did kind of force his way to a team that he wanted to during his draft, season. So, maybe the Manning family isn't shying away in general from the idea of them kind of forcing their way to a specific team. But I don't know. I don't think this is anything to really freak out about now, but it's something to keep an eye on. Maybe Les Snead is interested in drafting a guy like Arch Manning. I mean, who wouldn't, right? Moving on from that, Hall of Famer or not. I did talk about this a couple episodes ago, right? Do we really want to sit and discuss Cooper Kupp on this channel anymore? Probably not, right? But ultimately, I did want to kind of have this conversation because Cameron DeSilva did pose this interesting question, or responded to the interesting question posed by FanDuel. FanDuel tweeted, true or false, if Cooper Kupp retired today, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Cameron DeSilva said, love Coop, but he isn't close to being a Hall of Famer. All-time season, yes. Hall of Fame career, no. Thought that was kind of interesting. Kind of caught my eye for a second. Wanted to kind of read into it, see what we're talking about here. But ultimately, I don't think Cameron DeSilva's wrong. And it's nothing against Cooper Kupp, nothing against how great Cooper Kupp was, right? Super Bowl MVP, great player, longtime Ram. We get it. Incredible. One of the best receiving seasons we've ever seen. As Cameron DeSilva said, all-time season, right? Incredible player. Obviously, would love to see Cooper Kupp or any former Ram in the Hall of Fame. But when you really break down the receiver kind of realm, right, of the possibility of receivers making the Hall of Fame, it is very difficult because there are so many great receivers in the NFL, so many great receivers in NFL history. You can't just let them all in the Hall of Fame. At least that's how the NFL has kind of been, historically speaking. So we look at Torrey Holt here, right? So someone in the replies to Cameron DeSilva said, receivers too hard to get through without a decade of dominance. Cameron DeSilva responds by saying, even if Cooper Kupp had a decade of dominance, you still might not be able to get into the Hall of Fame. For example, Torrey Holt, we talked about this a few episodes ago, right? He should be in the Hall of Fame. If you really look at his decade of dominance, he played in the NFL for 11 seasons, almost all of those being with the Rams, right? Played with Jacksonville 1 year before he retired. And so you look at it, 1,600 yards, 1,300 yards, 1,300 yards, 1,600 yards, 13, 13, 11, 11. I mean, that's nearly a decade of dominance from Torrey Holt. And simply because he was on a team that had another Hall of Famer on it, all of a sudden he is not eligible to ever make the Hall of Fame. It seems like they just don't want to let him in because they don't want to give the Rams too many Hall of Famers from that era. They don't ever want to give too many guys from one team specifically multiple Hall of Famers, because I think it's difficult for the NFL to kind of acknowledge one group of players and then not kind of acknowledge all these other groups of players. So I kind of understand why the NFL has to be kind of very particular in who they let in the Hall of Fame, but I just think they have to kind of break down a little bit of reasonings why, right? They're making guys wait, maybe not letting guys in the Hall of Fame. I think they have to kind of break down their rules and kind of reasons why they are voting for guys in sooner rather than others, because ultimately this one doesn't really make any sense. For example, Torrey Holt, and I'm not arguing that Cooper Kupp deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I think he had a great all-time season, a great career, of course, a Rams legend, possibly maybe a Ring of Honor type of player. But ultimately, I think, when you're talking about the Hall of Fame, it is a very difficult thing to try to make. And so that's why it's so special, right, when the guys do make it. So, we're talking about guys like Torrey Holt. Before we kind of talk about guys like Cooper Kupp, I think we have to kind of acknowledge these legends who in the past have been snubbed year after year. And we will have to ask ourselves why. Maybe the NFL needs to fix their voting kind of policy with the Hall of Fame. But ultimately, it is what it is for now. We know probably not for Cooper Kupp in terms of a Hall of Fame career at this point if he retired today. Moving on from that, trivia of the day, my favorite part of the episode. I ask a trivia question. You guys give me your trivia guesses down below in the comment section. If you're right, I'll give you a shout out. Even if you're wrong, I'll give you a shout out on the following episode. If you guys missed last trivia of the day, no worries. We'll bring it up here. Last trivia of the day was this question. I thought it kind of a fun question. You guys let me know how you feel. What NFL team has a mascot named Sir Purr? That was a question posed on the last episode. Again, if you missed it, it's okay. You can play along in a few seconds. We'll go ahead and talk about today's trivia of the day. But last trivia of the day, the multiple choice options were A, the Falcons, B, it wasn't the Falcons. I'm sorry. Was it A, the Jaguars? Was it B, the Lions? Was it C, the Bengals? Or was it D, the Panthers? What NFL team has a mascot named Sir Purr? I don't really know mascots' names personally, so I kind of really took a guess at this as well. Like these two folks did here. They guessed a couple of interesting guesses here. Shout out to Floyd. By the way, Floyd, appreciate the update to your profile picture. Shout out to the new picture. I'm not sure if it's you standing in front of that nice car, but shout out to Floyd for guessing Panthers ? And then Brian B says Bengals ? Shout out to both of you guys who have been pretty consistently giving your guesses to the trivias of the day recently. So I appreciate both of you guys for playing along. The answer for the trivia of the day, what NFL team has a mascot named Sir Purr? The answer was the Panthers. The Panthers have a mascot named Sir Purr. So shout out to Floyd for getting that correct. Shout out to Brian B for playing along. If you want to play along with today's trivia of the day, here is the question for the day. What team's Super Bowl season featured Super Bowl season featured a touchdown dance called the Dirty Bird? Which team's Super Bowl season featured a touchdown dance called the Dirty Bird? Was it the A, Falcons, B, Eagles, C, Ravens, or D, Cardinals? Another tough one because it is a lot of birds, right? Last one was a lot of feline animals. This one's now a lot of birds, right? Bird type animals. I don't know why I'm saying that weird. Was it A, Falcons, B, Eagles, C, Ravens, or D, Cardinals? What team's Super Bowl season featured a touchdown dance called the Dirty Bird? Let me know your guesses down below in the comment section. Again, if you're right or wrong, no matter what, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode as a helicopter is flying over my house right now, if you hear that. That's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. Remember, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. That's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I am out.